Hi everyone and welcome back to your favorite fashionista show, Israel in Style, where we will give you all the latest in Israeli fashion, culture, and lifestyle, and really what better lifestyle than the Israeli one. On this week's episode, we're talking beauty trends, of course, fashion magazines, creative hobbies turned careers, and travel photographers. So it wouldn't be Israel in Style if we didn't mix in some much needed beauty advice. So here with us in the studio to talk all about how to keep your skin looking fresh and vibrant is the talented makeup artist, Jacqueline Lawrence. Hi, love.
Hi, great to be back.
Thank you so much for coming back. The last time we kind of ended off on, skincare and what we do to keep up with our skin. You're a makeup artist, you're constantly painting on people's faces. So let's start from the basics. What are the newest and latest and best products for your skincare?
Okay, so the research that I've done shows that the greatest things to use for the skin right now is, there are a few products, and the one that we touched on was face oils, collagen, hyaluronic acid.
Right. And you talked to us last time about, we were saying how I have really oily skin. I'm like prone to breakouts when I use a lot of oil products. And you were saying the complete opposite, like oils are good for your skin. You're supposed to be using a lot of them. So why don't we talk about that first? Oils?
Yes.
How?
Okay. So contrary to popular belief, when you think about oils, you don't really want to think about, you think about breakouts.
Right.
And breakouts on the skin, but that's completely the opposite, okay? Face oils date back to the Egyptian times, so this is a really old school beauty hack. Exactly. So the trick is to know exactly which oils do what. So if you have oily skin, you'd want to use oils like jojoba or macadamia oil. If your skin was dry, you would want to use things like evening primrose oil or an argan oil that has a vitamin E in it.
Okay.
The trick is to just know what's good for your skin and what not. So it's always best to consult with a dermatologist.
Right.
But basically, the oil will really just absorb into the skin and really penetrate it from the inside and just make it look really glowing and fresh. And it's a great new beauty trend that I'm all over.
Right, and a lot of people also say that it's also good to use the oils, like, coconut oil to remove makeup off of your skin. Would you recommend that? As a makeup artist, you see a lot of people using coconut oil to take off, eye makeup, face makeup.
Yeah, so you can use coconut oil. The thing is, coconut oil can clog the pores. Okay. So it's good for really dry skin, but it's not really good for...
Not my skin, let's say. When I tell you I have really oily skin, it just doesn't work with that.
No, so maybe a different oil.
Yeah, maybe a different one. Well, what about acid? You hear acid and you're thinking, like, that's definitely not good for my skin. But you were mentioning that there's an acid in certain products that really does help. What is that about?
So there are certain acids that are good for skin and certain acids that are bad for skin. Now, one of the products that is really good for skin is hyaluronic acid. Now, hyaluronic acid comes here in a serum form, and the amazing thing about it is that it holds up to 9 times its weight in water, which means what it does is it locks in moisture to the skin. One of the main causes of aging is loss of moisture in the skin. So what you really want to do is keep that moisture in, and hyaluronic acid is really great for that.
Okay, perfect. So what about scrubs? We're talking all about skincare now and makeup, and it's really tough to get that makeup off without a good makeup remover or maybe an exfoliator. But there are a lot of misconceptions that exfoliating your skin is not a good thing. Do you think otherwise? What did your research say?
Okay. The research shows that the skin has really delicate pH levels. And when you scrub your skin too much and you use harsh makeup removers, it's going to strip the skin of its moisture. So what you're going to see now is the trend is going to be that we're going to move away from harsh cleansing products and facial scrubs, and the return of products like Dove and Aveeno and Cetaphil are going to make a really big comeback. The trend is going to be clean smarter, not harsher.
Okay, so more of a cleanser and less of a scrub, you would say.
Yes, gentle.
Yeah, a gentle, Cetaphil's been around for years. Yeah. It's the basic dermatologist recommended cleanser. Everybody goes to it. So you would say use more of a gentle one to makeup remover before. All right, so last question before we have to wrap everything up. We hear a lot of, do-it-yourselves scrubs and, masks that contain food, like bananas, lemons, strawberries, things like that. Do you approve of using food products on your skin?
Me personally, I wouldn't put food on my skin.
Okay.
But if you want to, I just say Do your research.
Yeah, do your research ahead of time.
Do your research. I wouldn't do it.
Okay.
But
some would.
yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us. And clearly there are endless skincare products I am not aware of and even have some misconceptions about, like face oils. But that's why Jacqueline is here to set us straight. Don't worry, guys. She will be back. But of course, make sure to follow her on Instagram at JMMakeupTLV and on future episodes here in Israel in Style. So, up next with us in the studio today is a fashion lover turned editor-in-chief, Daniel Arom, to tell us all about Aesthetic Cult, the online fashion website focusing on diving deeper into people's stories while touching on cultural topics in the fashion world. Hi, how are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm great. So, you started Aesthetic Cult, you're an editor-in-chief there, right?
Yeah, it's my website.
It's your website. So before we get onto that, why don't you tell us a little bit about, your journey into the fashion world, how it got started?
Well, I studied a bit of philosophy, visual philosophy at IDC, and it really interested me, like femininity and stuff like that, and obviously fashion touches that everywhere.
Right.
And I wrote for a magazine called Acute. I was doing like text there and design. And then
Focusing on fashion specifically?
yeah, more
Okay.
summer and beachy and swimwear. And then I decided to open up my own website because the fashion here in Israel doesn't really have a touch in English, so I just opened that up. And
So the
started
website,
writing.
it's called Aesthetic Cult, and it's all in English. Now
All in
tell us
English.
what it is, what's the content, and who are some of the people that you're interviewing?
So basically the content is what's happening here and a bit of abroad. I love the darker side of fashion because I came from metal, so I interview models, creatives, and it's basically long-form interviews like New York Times style about them and their stories.
And you say you're from the darker side. What does that mean? How do you feel like that influences you in
It mean-
fashion?
I don't know, like there's a lot of crowds for fashion because fashion is everybody, it's all of society, and there are a lot of editorials that are darker in brands like Vitma and stuff like that, that cater to those crowds.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there somebody, so you interview only people here in Israel, like Israeli?
Abroad, too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fashion designers, who are the people that you interview?
Photographers, models, makeup artists, basically everybody.
You're touching upon their personal
Their
stories,
personal stories, how they contribute to it.
how they contribute to the fashion world.
Yeah, to the whole thing that's
Okay,
called fashion.
and what about, where do you expect to take Aesthetic Cult in the future?
I don't know. I think make it a whole brand of itself that can cater to the niche crowd that I point to.
Right.
So,
Who is the niche crowd? Do you feel like you go towards more of the darker side?
yeah,
to
like
fashion?
the anti-fashion kind of crowd. Like not necessarily people who wear the big, sparkly brands
Right.
like Chanel and all
Not
that.
the brand names, more of the thrift store or secondhand kind of thing?
Yeah, and darker, big, Rick Owens people.
Right. More
Yeah.
of like a little, like you said, darker, gothic a little bit more
A
of
little
an
bit,
edgy.
yeah. Like metals become like cool nowadays. You see it at H&M. You see patch jackets there and Zara and stuff.
Yeah, what are some
so-
trends that you've noticed like in that
patch
darker?
jackets?
Yeah?
Patch jackets, yeah.
That are coming out more this year?
Yeah. Like they're taking like Slayer, like the band. It's now like you can see little girls walking around in a
With
Slayer
t-shirts.
shirt, but they never listened to metal in their life. So.
But that's kind of like the band t-shirts
Yeah.
trend as it
Yeah,
is. I'm
yeah,
actually
yeah.
wearing a band t-shirt
Yeah,
right now,
I
It's,
understand. Yeah.
Are you really a fan or are you wearing the t-shirt just to wear the t-shirt?
Yeah,
I guess everybody does their own thing.
Yeah, exactly.
What about you personally in the fashion world? Where do you see yourself, going? Would you design? Would you do photography?
I would want to write like really long form pieces. I'm a fan of stories and everybody has a story to tell. So hopefully we can combine platforms with a bigger brand and
Right.
yeah, and show those stories. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so
Yeah,
much for
thank
joining
you.
us.
Thank you so much.
I'm so excited to read a few of the interviews, check out your website, and get a
Yeah.
feel for it.
Cool,
Thank you
thanks.
so much. So I've always been jealous of those people that had the courage to drop everything and follow their dreams, to be committed to something so much that you'd push for success no matter what. Well, next in our studio is fashion photographer and designer turned illustrator, Dana Adi, to talk all about her successful dreaming. Hi, babe.
So nice.
You're like, I love that intro.
I did not expect that.
Hi, babe. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. So why don't you tell us exactly what I kind of described in the beginning. You started off in fashion photography and designing, and then you led into your actual passion. How did that start?
So actually, fashion photography was like the middle point between everything, but my history is working in fashion. I've been working in fashion for almost 10 years now.
Wow. Is it weird to say that out loud? Be like, all of a sudden realize it's been 10
No,
years?
I've accepted that I'm old, so it's okay.
Okay.
But yeah, so I started working in fashion in 2007 or 8, and I was working for myself doing graphic illustrations on T-shirts, and eventually I had to learn how to photograph products and build an online store, and that's where the photography came in.
Okay. And you taught that for yourself, or you went to school, you took a class? How did it work?
In my university, I actually took like a beginning to photography, like a 101 class, and that's where I learned
Beginning to photography 101.
Yeah, it was just like a fun class where I really understood how to manage using a camera and photograph and use different perspectives and lighting, and that's really where I got a good understanding for photography and capturing good images. And eventually I opened an online boutique as well, and you know, the photography really was strong there. You know, shooting products, and I had to learn how to shoot, you know, on a model, on you know, do layouts and all kinds of fun.
And this was all in the States?
This was in the States.
And then you made your transition over to Israel.
Yeah, I made my transition to Israel, where I was working for a fashion label called Galia Lahav, where she does couture bridal gowns.
Right.
And my job there was doing PR and marketing to make her grow internationally. But a big part of that was content productions, because you need really good content these days.
Right.
And that's also where I understood more and more about how to capture catching images.
Yeah.
And so that's also where the photography came in hand. It was always something that I had in my back pocket of taking great photos and, you know, publishing those photos online.
And kind of really making a successful, you know, social media page. You were really pushing her social media account and kind of making her more international, as opposed to just staying here in Israel like most designers. You kind of wanted to push boundaries and kind of make her grow a little bit bigger.
Absolutely, yeah. So I had to think of, you know, you can't just post campaign photos every day. So one of the things that I tried to do was to find innovative ways to capture images that would grab people. So I would, you know, do fittings in the dressing rooms with brides, and I would do close-ups of laces, and when I would travel for trunk shows, I would take photos of the traveling and of the girls that we're working with. And
give it a little different aspect as to your typical bridal Instagram account.
Yeah.
So where did photography turn illustrating? Was there like a breaking point?
Yeah, so basically then I ended up quitting my job, and I was like, I'm just gonna become a fashion photographer. I love being a creative, it's so much fun. But at the same time, I was really longing to work in art as well. It's been something I've been very passionate about since I was young.
Right.
And there was a pull. So I was launching my photography career, and I was working for designers in Israel, helping them create content and innovative photos. And at the same time, I felt like something was missing in these images. And so I started to doodle on my images.
Literally doodle, like these are your images here.
Yeah.
But they're pictures that you grab off of Instagram, off of people's like pages, right? And then you add the doodles.
Yeah, and I'm actually working on a collection of my own. It's really hard to manage, you know, shooting your own content and then editing the content and then illustrating on them.
And then posting it, keeping up with your page and your Instagram.
Absolutely, and you know, keeping up also with my fan base. There's a lot that goes on in this, more than what meets the eye. So I am working on a collection right now of my own images that I will be publishing soon. And if you look on my online store, you can find some travel photos that I did when I was in Bali and Amsterdam and Sweden. I did some really cool images.
So being an illustrator, fashion illustrator here in Israel, have you faced any obstacles? You know, people obviously admire your work. Have you faced any obstacles with people, you know, copying or doing something like that?
Yes, I definitely have faced those obstacles. Like from the beginning, I have seen people copy my work, and there are multiple accounts that I have discovered that use my ideas or certain characters of mine, or even just stealing my photos and taking off my watermark to publish a promotion. Yeah, a lot of people like to also like promote a product, so they'll take one of my images and
add the product inside of it.
Yeah, or they will just like take off my watermark and add like another element to it. And so that was something that was at first very difficult for me to manage, but now it's getting a bit easier because I'm also getting used to seeing people copy my work. On the other hand, it's very flattering because there are a lot of people that also embrace it, and they send me their images and they ask me for advice, and a lot of my followers are trying to do it as well. So I do love to encourage others, you know,
but also appreciate and credit you.
Of course. Like,
yeah.
all of my followers that, you know, do credit me, I always try to, you know, show off, and I post it online. I say, like, you know, thank you so much for sharing.
Right, you share a lot on your stories, a lot of your followers' images that are kind of similar to yours, or your took inspiration from your work.
Yeah, you know, people that will write, like, inspired by Donna, and they'll send it big, hey, check this out, you inspired me so much.
That's amazing.
I love to, you know, share that and embrace it. So that would be, I guess, on one hand, it is an obstacle when people, you know, don't ask for permission to use my images, or you'll just blatantly, you know, steal certain ideas and take credit for it. But on the other hand, I do get a lot of wonderful fans. You know,
and opportunities. I'm sure a lot of people want to collaborate and do kind of this more unique aspect of illustrating on images.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the illustrations that you do. You know, do you have a favorite style? Do you have a favorite type of photo that you like to illustrate on? How did you get involved in this type of illustrating?
That's a good question.
You're like, I should have thought about that.
Yeah, no, I mean, first of all, like, illustrating is very innate within me. It's something that I've done since I was a child. Even when I was in class, I would be illustrating in my textbooks and on my notebooks. And I am sure you did this too when you were younger. You'd take your Vogue magazines, and I would always be illustrating on them. So,
like doodling around, yeah.
Yeah, like adding something else. So it was something that I've always been doing as it is. And so your question was...
Do you have a favorite style of picture that you like to doodle on? I see a lot of, you know, models. We see a lot of Bella Hadid, Kendall Jenner, stuff like that.
So yeah, I really do like fashion photography. It's something that I'm very attracted to and very intrigued by.
Right.
And
so you're collaborating your past and your future a little bit. Your fashion photography with your illustrations.
Yeah, I'm very fashion photography with my illustrations. I do like to do scenic photos as well, lifestyle photos, travel photos. I'm trying to break free of just doing fashion.
Okay.
But I can't deny that it's one of my favorite kind of photos to draw on.
And so, last question before we have to wrap up this interview, where can people like purchase or collaborate with you? You just did a collaboration with Nordstrom.
Yeah.
So where can people, you know, contact you to do an illustration or buy an iPhone case with an illustration of yours?
Awesome. So basically you can contact me on my website or through my email address. I have an Instagram as well where I answer my messages on a daily basis.
She keeps up with her fans.
I do. It's really important to me to always get back to everybody. And I have an online store that I just released where it's all like original illustrations on phone cases and prints, cups, tote bags. And so if you just want a fun piece to carry around with you, I made that possible.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Donna, for coming in.
Too.
I can't wait to see all the illustrations and continue following along.
Thanks.
Are you looking for a gift, a creative gift to give to a loved one, a custom-made, one-of-a-kind drawing from the one and only Donna Adi? Make sure to check out her Instagram page at Donna_Adi for more illustrations. So to wrap up today's episode, some would say this next person is their least favorite to follow, not because they don't absolutely love him, but because they wish they had his adventurous lifestyle. Well, he happens to be one of my favorites, casual photographer turned world traveler turned travel photographer, and now he's taking things to the next level. Eden Ram, how are you?
Good, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming in. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your story, how you got involved in photography?
Well, I've been doing photography since high school, pretty much, and it was always just a hobby, you know. I just always really enjoyed it, and then I was always traveling at the same time. My family has been traveling my whole life, and at some point, I decided maybe I'll try and make some money from it. And I was
like,
just,
ooh, I have a passion and I have a
exactly,
talent.
you know, why not? So I just started a degree, and I love surfing, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll try being a surf photographer and see, you know. I realized it was a small niche in Israel, and maybe I'll have a chance there.
Right.
And I started talking to some professional surfers. And one of them reached out to me, and we decided we'll shoot together.
That's how I got started.
And that's how I got started. I got really lucky. We had like a great day, and he just loved it. And then he sent me to all his sponsors, and then since that day, pretty much, I've always had work.
So you got in contact with this one surfer here in Israel who led you to the rest of them, which kind of started your career, you could say.
Pretty much, yeah.
So how did you do the transition from surfing photography to, you know, travel photography to videos you do as well, as we see here in the back?
Right. So as I started, it was really more for fun, like I was experimenting. And as I started to gain recognition, and because it was such a small niche, I developed a name pretty fast. And all of a sudden, I just started getting all sorts of requests from different different fields and from companies and from stuff that were unrelated to surf.
Right. What are
And,
some fields that you touched upon other than surf?
Well, I've worked with startups. I've worked with some big corporations. I've worked with all sorts of companies that have reached out to me just from word of mouth, you know. And I slowly started learning along the way how to do the different types of videos because I didn't know anything, you know. I just started shooting with a GoPro in the beginning.
Okay.
And then I slowly learned and got into different fields and different aspects of videography.
Okay, so you started out with photography. Where
Right.
was the transition to videographer? And then where was the transition to traveling? What came first? What came last?
They kind of came simultaneously. I'd always
Okay.
been traveling and I'd always been shooting. And then at some point, I got a job offer to fly to Peru and do a surf video. And I had already been doing a little bit of video, but it was one of my first big jobs. And then since I did that job, I guess people just started realizing that I do travel jobs as well. Yeah, both. And then I just started getting all sorts of jobs, you know, job offers all over the world.
It kind of came to you. You were like,
Yeah,
oh, you guys
yeah.
want this? I can do this. And send me
Right.
out to cool places.
I think a lot of it came from my videos that I made when I was an amateur, and I would make just travel videos for fun.
Right.
And people saw those, and it was kind of like associated with my name, having the adventure style stuff.
Yeah.
And then people wanted that for their own marketing and for their own content, and so they reached to me to make my videos for them.
Is there a favorite place that you've gotten to experience because of this photography career?
Oh wow.
Did I put you on the spot? You have to like think about it. All these different places that you've
There's
been
a lot.
to.
There's a lot. I would say Indonesia was definitely one of like the highlights that I've been to. I don't know.
Something that you fell in love with.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
really
yeah, yeah.
like found yourself in
That's
Indonesia.
a place I didn't want to leave when I was there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So what next? Where do you go from, you know, photography to videographer? Like where does it go from there?
So now I'm in the process of expanding my production company, and we actually make commercial video for all sorts of companies, for startups, promotional videos, Kickstarter campaigns, stuff like that. And that's really where I've found my niche and where I can make a legitimate business out of. And at the same time, I also have my whole adventure travel.
So you're not giving that
work.
part up.
No, I could
So
never
you're
give that
opening
up.
the production here in the production like company here in Israel to
Right.
kind of more promote startups and Kickstarters and things like that.
I mean, we work internationally too, and we work with companies all over the world. But in general, yeah, it's two different fields. I have the commercial video stuff, and I have my adventure travel stuff, which is I always have on the side, and I always do both of them
Simultaneously.
together. Yeah.
So where's your next trip? Where can we find you next?
Actually, next week I'm going to be in Europe, in France. And then I have a few jobs over Europe and Costa Rica. I have Brazil planned. All
over
sorts
the
of things
world.
like that. Yeah.
Okay, so can you understand why people dislike you on social
Yes,
media?
actually, I feel like I'm doing something bad at some
Bad,
point. 'Cause
very
I
bad.
get hate mail. Like,
You-
literally, people are like,
No,
I
you
hate you,
don't.
and I get it every day. I'm like, I'm not going to stop following you.
I'm unfollowing you now. That's how it is.
Yeah.
Because, you know, people want to go and explore an adventure. They're stuck in their office, as you can tell, stuck in the studio while you're talking about your Bali trips.
Yeah.
Well, good for you.
Well,
And
listen, my whole goal in photography, where it started from, is to inspire people to want to go out and do those things, you know? And when you're sitting in an office and you see all these pictures of people doing something, you know, it ignites a little something inside you saying like, wow, I need to do that, you know? And,
Right.
if I can do my job good enough and convince you to actually go do something, it doesn't have to be something huge. You don't have to fly to the other side of the world, you know, even if it's just take a weekend trip somewhere.
go gain
then-
experience and adventure.
Then I've done my job, you know, and then I feel like I've contributed my little bit of good into the world, you know.
Yeah, your slogan, do more. That's
Do
what
more.
you're doing
That's my
out there.
slogan, yeah.
Have you seen a lot of people get inspired from your work, going and exploring?
Absolutely, and that's the only thing that keeps me going because it's a lot of times, you know, like obviously I showcase the good aspects of the job,
Right.
but there's a ton of behind the scenes of sitting and editing in front of a computer, which is exactly the opposite of you know what
Exploring.
what I show. But I'm constantly getting feedback of people that have been inspired, that have quit their jobs, you know, and like gone to travel the world. Yeah, sometimes it's a little scary.
Sometimes they're taking it a little too far.
Yeah, a little too far. No, but in most cases, it's amazing to see how much positive feedback I receive, and it's fun. You know?
All right. Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much, and I can't wait to follow along your next adventure and be jealous. You know. All right. Well, if you didn't fall in love with him already, you will definitely, after checking out his page, go follow along Eden's journey on his Instagram, Eden Ram, and make sure to keep up with his upcoming adventures. I know I will. That's all the time we have for today's episode of Israel in Style. If you missed any episodes and want to catch up on our show, iltv.tv/Israel in Style. Thank you to all our guests that came into the studio today. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.